Hi, everybody. Welcome. Today we have a special guest with us, Shelby Nichols from, Mississippi, but she's also from MONLO Consulting. And we found her through a series of, I know this person, I know that person, and she has helped us in 2024 automate CyberWyoming systems like you wouldn't believe. We estimate that we save 800 to 1,000 hours a year on marketing alone. And so I wanted to share what she has done for us in general, not in specific. And I wanted her to come talk about Zapier because even sometimes I'll go in and play with it and find that I'm struggling a little bit. So I call Shelby and she helps me. And so I wanted her to talk a little bit about Zapier, what a Zap is, and what this program can do for you. There are other programs out there besides Zapier, so I want to make sure that you know that this is not the only one. It's just the one we happen to choose. We chose it before we even knew Shelby because we thought we could do it ourselves. And we could do a lot of simple things ourselves, but we struggled a little bit with some of the harder stuff. And so then we found Shelby afterwards. So I'm going to mute myself and turn off my camera and turn this over to Shelby. She's got a short presentation for you. And then we've got Q&A, and feel free to put your questions in the chat. Shelby and I will be talking and going through those questions at the end. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Shelby. Like Laura was saying, I've worked with Laura's team for a while now, and I've worked with many other startups, small companies, but Zapier is just my jam. I love it. I love automated workflows. We're going to talk about those today. And we're just going to talk about all of the basics of Zapier, how to use it, how you can utilize the platform for a number of things. So let's just dive in and get started. So before we talk about Zapier, I want to talk about a workflow automation. So a workflow automation is a game changer for all types of businesses. Think about it as a tireless digital assistant working behind the scenes to ensure that information flows seamlessly between all of your apps, all of your systems, all of your tools and platforms that you use. So I just want to make sure we are all kind of on the same page of workflow automation. So Zapier, what is Zapier? Zapier is a web-based tool that allows users to automate tasks by connecting different apps, services. I like to think of it as the middleman between two different tools, softwares, platforms. I kind of like to think about the telephone game. Growing up, you play the telephone game where, you tell someone something and then they pass it down the line. Kind of think about it that way. Like, okay, I'm going to tell someone this, and then once I get to the final person, you're going to have hopefully the correct saying or whatever. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. So jumping to Zapier methodology. So an automation, we kind of talked about workflow automations before, but to break it down even further, an automation is basically when something happens, do that. So with the Zapier terminology, think about a trigger and an action. So when an event happens in one app, it starts a zap where the action follows. So when the trigger happens, one or a series of actions will follow. So at the beginning of this call, Laura talked about what is a zap. So the term zap is just Zapier's way of saying the automated workflow that you or any user sets up to connect the apps. So you have the zap, aka automated workflow, and then you have a trigger, and then the series of actions that follow that initial trigger. So a task is just the action performed successfully within that zap. So let's say you set up an action to follow let's just say you set up an action to follow, like, okay, you have a new event coming up in your Google Calendar, and that action is to send you an email. Once that action is considered successful within the automation, then it would be considered a task. The term task is key because it kind of helps you solidify the type of plan that you would choose for yourself, your business, and we're going to talk more about plans later on. Okay, so Zapier, you think about one single platform and you think about all the different types of, tools, softwares that you may use and how they differentiate from another person's business tools, softwares. Zapier has over 7,000 integrations. So realistically, if you can think of the software tool, it's very likely that it's integrated. So this also allows humans, aka you and I, to stick to what we do best, aka running our businesses or working without, worrying about automations and all of that. So some popular integrations, like I said, there's over 7,000. And honestly, there are actually close to 8,000 integrations. I checked earlier this morning, and there's close to 8,000 integrations, which is absolutely crazy. But I wanted to list out a couple examples. So productivity, there's Gmail, Google Sheets, Slack, Asana, marketing, there's MailChimp, Facebook lead ads, HubSpot. For sales, there's Salesforce, Pipedrive, e-commerce. For scheduling social media posts, there's Sendable, there's Buffer, there's so many more. QuickBooks integration. So like I said, if you use it, there's a very likely chance that it is already integrated with Zapier. So let's talk about the plans. So Zapier plans give businesses, regardless of the size, all the automation tools needed to build and scale end-to-end workflows. The beauty of that, though, is you don't have to have a big plan just to get the basics. So I want to talk about the different types of plans, and I'm going to tell you why. So the Zapier free plan, you have all of the basic features. The tasks are limited, but you can create a free Zapier account after this presentation, and you can just dive in and you can learn so many new things. Zapier is a wonderful platform. I love to hype it up because they provide their users with so many resources, regardless if you're a free user or if you're just checking out the website. They provide so many resources, so many templates for you to use to build out automations. But if you are wanting to have higher usage limits, or if you're going to do more automations, more tasks, and more complex, that's whenever you really need to think about having a different plan. So the Zapier professional plan is the second tier, and then the Zapier team plan, which allows people across different departments, just more of a team setting. And then the Zapier company or enterprise grade, which that is where you would need to connect with Zapier customer service or the support team to create that type of plan and paying structure. So moving on. So how do you choose the right plan? So I kind of touched on this a little bit ago, but tasks are very important. So just like the free version, if you have very simple tasks, I'm going to give some examples after this, but if it's very simple, not complex type of automations, then this is the primary factor that determines which plan is right for you. And then the number of users, if multiple people need to access and manage Zaps, definitely choose for the team or enterprise plans, just to allow and make sure that everyone in the workspaces and have that user management there as well. The workflow complexity. So like I kind of touched on before, the simple automations might be handled by the free or the smaller plans. So, but the more multi-step, complex, intricate workflows might be more for the professional or like the higher tiered plans. And then the final part is consider your necessary features. So I'm going to kind of go into some of my favorite features of Zapier. There are so many, but really consider those. And really, that's just dependent on your own needs. There's AI integrations, there's pathways, which I'm going to talk through in a little bit. There's just so many different types of features. So those are limited depending on the plan. So really do your research. And if you have questions, also reach out to support, or you can always reach out to me and I can definitely help you out to choose the right plan. So I did want to provide this screenshot just so you guys can have a visual of the pricing structure. So professional, it's only $20 a month. And then the team plan, it's about $69 a month. I do want to say that whenever you go up in task usage, while you may select your plan, you can definitely move the task usage up or down, and that might change the pricing just a little bit. But this is a really good structure. This is a really good framework of what you are most likely going to be paying. But this is also all of the pricing information, everything is also on the Zapier website as well. So you definitely check that out if you have questions. So what are the benefits of Zapier and even workflow automations? I wanted to make sure that those kind of coincide together. So efficiency. Workflow automations eliminate manual data entry and repetitive clicks, freeing up valuable time for your team to focus on more strategic work. So it's yeah, way more efficient. The accuracy, automating data transfers minimizes human error. It takes that human part out of it, the manual touch out of it, and leading to more reliable and consistent outcomes. Visibility, workflow automation tools often provide real-time insights into process status, allowing you to track progress and identifying bottlenecks. I'm going to touch on this part a little bit later on too. Scalability. As your business grows, automated workflows can easily adapt to handle increased volume with additional staffing. And then improved collaboration, increased productivity, better data management, time savings and cost savings. So these two kind of coincide together. Laura kind of touched on it a little bit ago, but I think she said they saved close to like 800 hours, like thinking about it when they did the math. But
yeah, 800 to 1,000 is what we guessed.
Yeah. So you might spend that initial time setting up and cost like having the account or having like a third party create the automation for you, but you might have that initial time and cost to create that. But over a period of time, you're definitely investing in and getting that back. Like you are saving so much time. Time is money. That is something I just hold so close to my heart. Time is money. So you definitely see those time and cost savings through workflow automations and Zapier. So I definitely wanted to throw this security slide on here. All the information. I do want to preface that Zapier is an absolute top priority for Zapier to continuously monitor, QA, update their security and safety for their users, their integrations, their platforms in general. From beginning to end, Zapier is committed to keeping data safe. Zapier goes through rigorous, like external and third-party audits to just make sure that the security standard is there, and they check for vulnerabilities constantly. With that, they are continuously updating their integrations. So that close to 8,000 number of integrations, it blows my mind, but I can't tell you how many times where I've gotten on there, I would be building an automation. I'm like, oh, wow, even this, I noticed this tiny little update with the automation field or information data that I'm pulling, or anyway, I'm just like, okay, they definitely made an update there. So it's really good to see. It's good to see that they are staying on top of that. And if you have any security questions or the safety of your data or anything like that, check out their website, reach out to their support, reach out to me if you have questions, and I can definitely help out with that or answer any questions that you may have. So QA and maintenance. So I wanted to put this on here because QAing and the maintenance part of Zapier can be necessary at times. So Zapier does have, whenever you create an account, whenever you create automations, they do have a section where it's the Zap history. And just like this image on this slide, it shows you whenever one of your automations is successful. It shows you whenever it aired out. It shows you whenever it filtered out. And it notifies you exactly what prevented it from being successful. It shows you like all of the data. It helps you whenever you go into it, that failed or errored automation, basically saying it didn't complete. It will literally provide steps. It'll provide, all the different types of materials, resources to help you get the automation running and basically fix any of the errors. So it basically helps you QA the failed or aired out automation itself. But I wanted to bring that up. It does provide really good hands-on Zap history. I love it. I love being nosy and diving in and seeing what worked and what didn't. But moving on, Zapier can be very picky. Each app integration within a Zapier workflow needs specific data to function correctly within the action fields. So because of that, if there's a software update on either side, so the integration platform side, that could be like MailChimp, or the Zapier update side, that information could change, and that could alter the information or prevent the automation from working. So with the Zap history, you will know when that happens. So another part about Zapier being picky, I guess I will use this analogy. I like to say that Zapier is kind of like a very specific dating site. You have to have the exact, everything that Zapier is looking for are out of the question. You have to have the exact data that matches the fields. You have to line up exactly, or it's out of the question. But with Zapier, you can definitely change how things are created. You can kind of, I don't say manipulate the data, but you can definitely change the routing of the data. But regardless, Zapier is pretty picky. So errors are inevitable. Even well-built automations can encounter hiccups. Zapier does provide a detailed history, like I said, for all of your Zaps, for all of your automations, including a breakdown of any of the errors and potential solutions like we talked about before. Another part, which I love, is Zapier utilizes AI to help you troubleshoot. AI and Zapier, that integration is probably one of my favorite features, and I will talk more about that. I absolutely love the work between AI and Zapier. We'll talk more about it. So moving on to monitoring. Monitoring is key. So make sure you set up those notifications for that Zap history to know when automation has failed or wasn't successful. Don't just set up and forget your automations. Make sure you go into that Zap history and make sure that everything is running smoothly. So make sure you enable notifications when and where you can. Final point, embrace the change. The good news about automations, workflow automations, and Zapier is they are so flexible. I kind of touched on this a little bit ago, but if you encounter any type of error, or it could be reoccurring, or it could just be a small little error, you can always simplify that automation, and you can adjust or change the data, change the fields, and that will help the Zaps to improve their reliability and make sure that they are working properly. Okay, let's move on to some examples. I wanted to put these 2 examples in here. These are pretty simple, but I wanted to put these in here just you can have a visual and have a good understanding of just how it looks. I say it's simple, but it creates that impact. It saves that time, which we all love. So whenever this first one, whenever a new row is added to a Google Sheet, that can be a Google Sheet full of contact information for all of your clients or all of your third-party vendors. But anytime a row is added to a Google Sheet, it can send you or whomever an email with information, with the links, with anything. You can build up that email. It's basically creating that templatized email within that automation, which great feature. This other automation that I wanted to show, so whenever a new task is added into Asana, which is a project management tool, I personally use Asana, but whenever a new task is added, it can send me an email, which I personally like that. I do get notifications from Asana, but I also live out of my email. So having this automation set up to where I receive an email with the link, the due dates, and then it also creates a Google Calendar event for that particular event. And you can definitely change those depending on the needs, the goals, but these 2 are just very simple automations that I've created in the past. So this one is one that looks a little, you look at it and you're just like, what? So this beauty, basically, whenever a blog is posted to another person's website, we use the RSS feed of that particular blog page, and we filtered out the content to make sure that it matched up. It basically had the information that we were looking for. In this case, we were filtering out for a hashtag. We were looking for a hashtag. And then if it had that hashtag if that hashtag was in that blog of that blog that was posted to that blog page, we then added a new event to our social media scheduling platform or Buffer. And we created a LinkedIn scheduled post with all of the information within the post, with the links, the titles, and all of the good information that is needed. So with this, we literally took the RSS feed of that blog page, and that was the initial trigger. And then the final action was creating a LinkedIn post. That was probably the coolest one. Definitely not the most complex one, but it was definitely a cool one because you're using another person's webpage and you're basically showing, having that connection, having that relationship, and being like, hey, look at this information that we have for you guys, putting it out on social media, all that. It was really cool to do. Okay, so moving on to my favorite features, AI integrations. This one is, talked about it, it's great. Zapier is heavily investing in AI to simplify workflow automations. As I touched on previously, they recently introduced AI features to help users summarize the data, generate content. They even are translating different languages, cleaning up the data. You can use AI to create actions. If there's not an action for a particular integration that was already pre-templatized by Zapier, you can type in and say, I need to create this action where my end goal is this, and AI builds out an action for you. It's a great tool. Absolutely love it. They're continuously making updates with that. I'm learning new things all the time. The custom actions, like I just talked about, custom actions are beautiful. They're key. It basically is allowing you to not have limits. So like I said, if you are needing something to happen within an action, and that action is not there, like it's not already a pre-selected action for that platform, then you can create a custom action, and I can show more about that later on if you guys have questions. But yes, custom actions are key, and they're actually really cool to build using AI. So endless possibilities, like I talked about, there are so many ways to create an automation. So many different ways to reroute, to simplify, to utilize those pre-built templates, pre-built fields, and the possibilities are out there. If you have a goal in mind, if you have an end result in mind, it is possible. I just want to say that. There are ways to work around different, I don't say roadblocks. There are times, I don't want to be too optimistic. There are times where Zapier, just the integrations is just a tiny bit limited, but the possibilities are still there. If you can think it, Zapier can probably do it in some way. Another one of my features is the endless amount of resources and templates that are already provided on the Zapier website. If you go on there, if you just want to look up any type of thing, their blogs, their resources, their training material, they have courses on how to learn about the platform, about how to build just a simple automation, just so you can get your feet on the ground and learn the platform itself. There are just so many things. I love checking out the continuous updates of resources, templates, blogs, even. Zapier is just so hands-on with that. And that's just another feature that I absolutely love about this platform. To kind of go with that though, I mentioned it before, but Zapier really wants to set you up as a user for success. They are going above and beyond to provide what they can to make sure that you are utilizing their platform, yes, but also creating the automations that you would that you desire or that you need to reach your goals. So the pathways, talked about this before. So a pathway is honestly this image. So let's say that there's an action, and once this action happens, you have two options, just like this. I'm going to use this example. It's a great example. If they bought a food item, then all of these actions are going to follow to get that end result. If they bought something else beside a food item, all those actions are going to happen to get that result. So it's basically creating a fork in the road. So you have the same exact trigger, but then you have the fork in the road that creates different pathways to get two different or multiple different types of results. Yes, I discovered pathways a little bit ago, and I just think they're a great, great, great feature to use, especially if you are, wanting to use a blog to post to your social media, to send an email, to create a calendar event. Yeah, I think pathways are a great feature to use. And continuous updates. I know I've touched on this a number of times. I won't shut up about it. There are so many possibilities, and all of the updates that are continuously happening between integrations, between the Zapier resources, between all of the tools, processes, systems, AI integrations. It's just really cool feature. And I definitely use that continuously, religiously. Okay, so some tips and tricks. I want to provide just some thoughts as we kind of close this out. So leverage the resources provided on the Zapier site. Touched on that a number of times. You don't have to have an account. That's the beauty of it. If you have questions that I don't answer during this presentation, or Laura and I don't go over after this, shoot me an email or go check out the website. And there's so many different types of resources on that website. keep an open mind to what is possible. We talked about that too. There are so many integrations, so many possible ways to create automation, so many different avenues to take, and just keep an open mind to what is possible. Leverage the AI integration. It is so cool. Where you can leverage AI to create a custom workflow depending on your specific need. It's amazing. Do it. You can also create a custom action through the help of AI, like we talked about before. And then finally, phone a friend, AKA me. If you have any questions, if you have thoughts about, I really want to dive into Zapier or even learn more about the benefits of workflow automations. And if you have any questions, if you have questions top of mind, you can always shoot me an email. You can always, you can always call me, honestly. But I did want to provide my information here, my website, my email. Also, I do want to say that if you shoot me an email after this, you might receive some resources of Zapier, and just some Zapier resources and just some more information. So that was a whole lot of information about Zapier, a whole lot of information about the ins and outs, the basics, what a workflow automation is. But yeah, I'm excited to answer all the questions. So
Thanks, Shelby.
I'm gonna stop sharing the screen.
Yeah, stop your share. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording so that we can talk about CyberWyoming specific automations without it being recorded so that they can have very specific examples. So hold on a moment.